let's go now to Liz Cathcart, Executive Director of Hostage US, a group offering support services for former hostages and families of hostages and those wrongfully detained. Liz, thank you so much for being on today. We appreciate it. You know, it's hard to imagine what these former hostages and their families have gone through. That said, can you maybe give us a sense of what life may have been like for them during that time, the conditions in which they may have lived, the treatment they have faced, and maybe how it affected them physically and emotionally?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me and caring about the human aspects of this, what is a horrific crime. And I have to start just by saying that, you know, any release is a victory. We are so happy to have everyone home, and on the same token, we're also hoping and that others will be released as well, and saddened by watching the families who don't have their loved ones come home. And so, what folks go through is a wide variety of different challenges, right? When they're held in a cell for an extended period of time, oftentimes we see severe issues with malnutrition. They're not getting the appropriate food that they need in terms of amounts and variety and that type of thing, which can start to impact their day-to-day life. Vitamin deficiencies start becoming a serious issue when you're not getting the food that you need, which then impacts your cognitive ability, and really impacts, again, your recovery process. Beyond that, the day-to-day trauma of, being woken up at various hours, being exposed to fluorescent light for long periods of time, not being able to communicate with anyone who speaks your language. These things are very severe forms of, deprivation, and you come home and you need to address that trauma, and you need to start to rebuild your life in a slow but meaningful way that gives you kind of agency over what you went through and what your life is going to look like on the other end.
Yeah, and how does your organization, Liz, help people transition back to their own lives, the life they had before they were taken and held in custody?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really hard is the answer. Hostage US is a nonprofit organization, and we actually walk with families throughout the duration of a hostage or wrongful detention case, supporting them with practical and emotional and mental health supports. And then when they get home, when folks do return home, like you said, we support them back onto their feet, and that initially looks like physical health checks. So these folks who returned are now in Texas doing some government medical checks. Beyond that, they're going to need some further care to make sure that their physical body is being taken care of, and they have the, like I said, vitamins they need. They have the plan to rebuild weight and muscle after not being able to, eat and exercise as they normally do. So once you take care of that immediate physical health need, then you can start thinking about the psychological needs, and those vary a lot from stress, managing stress and coping with day-to-day life, all the way through to potentially PTSD. And the positive thing is that not everyone, and in fact, a small number of folks come home and actually develop PTSD. And initially having that mental health care is imperative to making sure that they're able to address any stressors that they're facing.
Liz, we only have about 30 seconds left or so, but could you talk to us about how important support is, public support for these folks, and anything else you would like our audience to know?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, because the public support is imperative. These situations are incredibly complex, and they're resolved in a very complex way that has, a variety of feelings around them. And we need to be supporting the Americans who are coming home, and also respecting their privacy and letting them tell their own story. So I encourage all to do that, and to keep the folks who didn't come home in mind as well, and keep this as an issue that you care about, because bringing Americans home is imperative, and supporting each other through the process is also imperative.
Liz, thank you so much for coming on and for all that you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.